welcome to Modelling Misadventures. And in today's video, I'm back on with the Suitcase Train. Now in the last video, I got the track laid within here. A little oval track and a viaduct at the back. And now I'm going to start having a crack at putting some scenery around here. Now I'm not sure how this is going to turn out because I haven't really done this before, but I'm going to try and make this area over here coming down to the ground more like the countryside. And I'm going to be using this sculptor mold modelling compound to help make a sort of a slope coming down here, along with a bit of foam to support it. Now that bit that I've cut out of there, I can use down at the bottom for a bit of a filler. So I've got all these lower sections filled in, down here and along here, and done a bit of a slope along here as well. So I'm hoping that that will provide a base for this sculptor mold to go on. Now I'm going to start on this sculptor mold. Got a bucket of water, mixing bowl, a couple of measuring cups, and here's my sculptor mold. And the mix is 2 parts sculptor mold, 1 part water. That's soaked in really easily. Right, we'll have a go at putting it on. Well, that's the first mix gone on, and this stuff dries very, very quickly. So, but you can smooth it out with your finger. But I'm going to make up another batch and put that on top. Well, that's the basic terrain done. I've got my steep slopes coming down here towards the town area. Got my corners filled in. I think the next thing I'm going to do is to do some work on the track. So what I'm going to do next on this layout is to weather and ballast the track. So I need to paint the sleepers so they don't look plasticky, paint the rails to make them look a little bit rusty, and then put some ballast down in and around the sleepers. Now for the sleeper weathering, I'm going to try and do it with a bit of dry brushing, just using a variety of colours. So that's the white bit done, and it just highlights the sleepers a bit, takes a bit of the shine off. Put a bit of reddy brown on. That's looking pretty good. It just gives it some different tones. Now a little bit of burnt umber. Just put some dark tones on it. Now it's fairly subtle, but it does make the sleepers look more like wood. And now I'm going to try and make the rails look rusty. Just going to use a bit of acrylic paint along with some of this weathering rust, and just see what it looks like. Well, that was my track weathered, and it's looking okay. Maybe not as good as some people would do it, but fairly happy with that. So the next stage of this build is to put some ballast on the track, and I had no idea how to do that, so got a lot of help from YouTube videos. That model railway guy was very helpful, and some of the Pico tutorials were very good. So I think I know how to do it now. And for this I'm going to use this Pico fine grade ballast. So first of all I'm just going to spread this in between the rails. And a bit on the outside as well. And then spread it around a bit with a brush. I'm going to glue these walls on the viaduct now because I want to use them to hold the ballast in. So that's all the ballast poured on. Now there's a lot of brushing and tidying up to do. Now you can see that this is a very time-consuming job. You've really just got to keep going and going until it looks right. But I think if you put the time in now, it's going to look so much better. Well, that's all the ballast laid out, and next I've got to glue it down. Now, first of all, I've made up a spray bottle of water with a drop of washing up liquid in it, and I'm going to spray the ballast first with that, which will allow the glue to penetrate. And then I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of PVA, white glue and water, and again a drop of washing up liquid. And then I'm going to drop the glue on with this syringe. Well, there we are. That was actually pretty easy, and it's all soaking wet now. And I'm just going to have to leave that to dry for a couple of days, and then hopefully the ballast will be rock solid. Well, now this ballast is all dry, it's rock solid. So the next stage, I'm going to paint this scenery. Now again, I'm going to use acrylic paints for this, and I'm going to put down a base coat that's sort of browny or earthy. Just to see how that looks. Well, that's my base coat done. It's nice to get rid of all that blue foam. I've added a little bit of green onto top of the brown, and just you know, in case any of it shows through after we put the grass on it, but I'm pretty happy with that so far. So the next thing I'm going to do to this layout is to try and put some grass down, and I'm going to be using what's known as static grass. I've got a couple of different types here, different lengths, different colours. And these are designed so that the individual strands of grass are meant to stand up and look more realistic than just laying sort of grass powder. Now, in order to lay this stuff, you need something called a static grass applicator. And you can buy these. They're actually fairly expensive, but I've made my own. And this is just made from an electric bug zapper. Those things that look like a tennis racket. And there's a few YouTube videos online that show you how to convert those into this electrostatic grass applicator. And the way it works is you put the grass in there, and you have a ground wire coming here down onto the layout, and when you press this and sprinkle the grass on, the static electricity is supposed to make the grass stand on end. That's the theory. Let's see if it actually works. I'm going to start here and just put some PVA glue down on this section. I'm going to put a pin in there for the ground. And let's see how this goes. No, that doesn't look too bad for a first effort. This grass here is very, very short. I wanted it to look more like a lawn, so you can't really see it standing up too much. But I'll have a go with some longer grass around here. It's actually looking pretty good, and you can see it standing up on end. Quite happy with that. So that's come out pretty well. And if we have a look at some close-ups of this grass, I think it looks pretty good. Now I've decided I want a tunnel on this layout, and it's going to have to go on one of the four corners, and I've decided I'm probably going to put it here. Now I found these two tunnel entrances online, and I 3D printed them. They're N scale, and that can go on there like that. But to connect the two end sections together, I've knocked up this little 3D printed tunnel, designed it on Fusion, printed it off, and that can go in the corner like that. Well, that's come out pretty good. Now I want this tunnel to be removable. So I'm going to cover that up there with cling film and put the tunnel back on, and then I'm going to build up around it with sculptor mould, but it won't actually stick to the track. Now I'm hoping that when that's dry and I've painted it, I'll be able to take it on and off. That's my tunnel lifted off, and just going to leave it outside to dry. Now the next thing I want to add onto this layout is some rocks. Now you can mould your own rocks, you can get moulds from model railway shops, but these ones I found online and I just 3D printed them, and I think they look pretty good. So I'm going to paint these up and see what they look like. So I've mixed up some grey acrylic paint, and I'm just going to give these a base coat, sort of make them look a bit like slate or shale type rocks. Well, these are looking all right after they've dried, and now I'm going to do a little bit of weathering. So I'm just going to try putting some little dabs of colour on, and then rinsing it with water. So this is just trying to make them look a little bit dirty. Try a little bit of green as well. Well, they look pretty rubbish when they're wet, but I'm hoping when that dries out they'll start to look okay. Now these are looking pretty good now that's dried. I'm just going to see what happens if I put a black wash on them. going to finish them off with a bit of dry brushing, just to bring out some highlights. Well, I reckon them look pretty good. So next I'm going to put these on here and try and make a rock face. So that's my rock face or little quarry type thing. Next I'm going to try and put a little bit of water in here. Now you can get all sorts of things to make water with, but I'm actually just going to use a bit of PVA glue for that small section. Now I'm just going to try and make a little dam out of this roll of blue tack. Don't know what this will turn out like, but I'm going to give it a go. Now I have to leave that for a couple of days to dry. Well, my little stream is dry, and I think it's come out pretty good. You certainly get a little water effect, not bad for just using PVA. I'm going to take that blue tack off and it should be done. Well, I can't get all the blue tack off, but I'm going to cover up the edge of that stream with some grass and rushes, so you won't be able to see that when it's done. So now it's back to my tunnel, which has dried, and that can just fit into there perfectly. So I'm going to give that a paint and then put some grass on it. I think that's looking pretty good. Well, I think that's come out pretty well. Grass looks quite nice. Stone looks all right. Happy with that. Now I've been thinking a lot about how to fasten this tunnel down, coming up with all sorts of different ideas, but I think I'm just going to put a bolt through here, see if I can fasten it on that way. So I've drilled out some big holes here, and I'm going to plug them with these. I 3D printed that. It's got 3 little nuts in it, and that'll go in there. And hopefully give me a nice firm connection. So those are my attachment points glued in. I think this is going to work. There it is, nice and secure. Be able to cover those 2 screw holes really easily. I decided just to paint the inside of here rather than just leave it suitcase colour. So didn't know whether to paint it green or blue, but I think because you're looking at it from above, it probably looks better green. So what I'm going to do next is fill in some of these gaps with a little bit of shrubbery. So I'm going to use this light green bushes made by Woodland Scenics. So I'm just going to lay this along here. Some glue down there. Just make it look like a row of bushes. Well, I reckon that looks pretty effective, and it certainly finished off the edges. Now I want to do a little bit more with this water. It's not looking too good at the moment. I want to put some rocks in it and some rushes and just try and make it look a bit better. Now I've got a bit of this stuff. tufts of swamp grass from Vallejo. That would look nice. Well, I think once the glue's all dry, that's going to look okay. I'm pretty happy with all of that. Well, there's still loads more to do on this layout, but I've got the basics of the scenery all complete, and I think that would be a good time to stop and take a break. In the next video, I'm going to start putting some buildings in here and trying to make a little town in the bottom of there. But so far so good on this. I'm quite liking the way it looks. I hope you enjoy watching it. So at this point, I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Modelling Misadventures.